Afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Postcard proper, number 1, number 2, whatever you want to call it. I have done a dummy one already, and what I'm going to try and do is show you. Oh, this is my sewing machine. You can't see it yet. I'll turn you in a minute. I'm going to try and get it that you can actually see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and then that way I can explain why I'm doing things as I'm doing them, if that makes sense. So I've made the basis of one postcard already. All right, so we're going to do like a scrappy, it's like a log cabin, but it's a crazy log cabin because I've not even thought about it. And we're going to do what is called foundation piecing. When I learnt it many years ago, we called it stitch and flip, because you stitched it together and you flipped it open. I don't know if people still do that or not, or if I'm just outdated, but we're going to have a little go. All right, so I'm just going to alter you a little bit here, that hopefully you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. Oh look, hello, hopefully you can see that. Right, okay, so I've got another one that I've just started now. Stitch and flip the basis off is 2 pieces of fabric put together right sides together, okay, like that, on top of another like that, and then you stitch, and then you open it out. Okay, so this is your foundation and they're your 2 pieces, but I've done that already with these 2. And then this is the 3rd piece I'm just putting on now. You're missing part of this because I was going to show you where I cut off, but I'll cut you off on the next one, because I started doing, and I went to move my camera for you all, and all you got was a palm in your face, and it was really not very pleasant. So we've ditched that last video and we're doing another one now, so we're a little bit further on. So okay, so we had that piece was stitched right sides together with the 2, and then it was flipped open. Now I've just started with a rectangle and another scrap piece that I've put next to it, right sides together, open it, right sides together, open it, and I'm going to do another piece here, open it. All right, so I'm just getting here now. It just so happens that Sunday specials yesterday I had some offcuts, so that's what we're using. So tiny little bits that were left on the end. Now I'm not being too perfect about this, there's no point. All right, now what I am being more careful with, okay, is that that lines up nicely over the top of the darker yellow right the way across. Now if you need to put a pin in that, put a pin in it. All right, I'm just going to whiz it along underneath on the sewing machine. All right, don't be trying to do stuff if it's too difficult. Make sure you're comfortable. Right, I'm going to go on a bit more just so as I can show you the bit that I did earlier and I missed. Okay, right, so that's it stitched together, and then in a minute I will be flipping it open. But actually you can probably see some nasty dark there coming through, and we don't want that. So I'm going to cut away that piece there. But actually I've stitched it right the way across, so I'm going to have to unpick first. All right, my mate sells these, he makes them. Lots of you probably know him on UK Quilters, John. Pencold Pens and Turning. He does the most amazing, lovely little things. Lovely chap. There we go. And I'm just going to cut away the bit that's not needed. All right. Now, I know for patchwork I'm always screaming at all my students accuracy. I don't really care at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that out. So that's now flipped open. All right. But I'm going to finger press it, because I can't be bothered to have the iron here or keep going back. Far too technical. I'm likely to kill stuff if I've got that going on here at the same time. So there we are, we're like that. And I'm trying to figure out, what did I do next on this one? It helps if you have it set around the same way. So we did sort of like that, and then we did one over the end. Okay, so we're going to put an odd piece across there. What have we got? That'll do, won't it? Can you see this? That'll do, it's about the right length. I'm not even going to bother chopping the length off it for a minute, so I'm going to put it right sides together. Okay, right the way across like that, and stitch it. All right, so you're just gonna have to bear with me while I'm stitching, and the noise right off the card. All right, I don't care. I want actually cover that whole area, and I'm stitching it back and I'm finger pressing it. Okay, So do I need anything underneath that needs to be cut away? Well, actually, yes, there's some blue. I've got to unpick that and all. This could be a long video. I'm sorry, folks. But do you know what? I want to say it's live. It's not live, but you know what I mean. I'm doing. Right, so now that comes back there like that. Now that's looking lovely. I know I've got a load off the end there. So you can see where the back is, and I'm just going to give it sort of 1/2 inch-ish and get rid of that end bit. All right, that's lovely. What did I then do? Do you know what? This is going to come out totally different just because. Right, okay, so I then got a piece of lace. All right, I raided my lace box for some nice bits of lace. So what I'm going to do now is, what did I do last time? I laid it across there, across the full length of that, as if I was going to join it. Okay, across the full length, as if I was going to join it and flip it. I've got to remember, you don't always see what I'm doing because my camera is only at one angle. If I work there, you'll see more, won't you? So we're going to do that, and then what we're also going to do is have another long bit of fabric. Well, okay, it's, what colour we got? We could go that, or we could go that. That will do. Right, I'm just going to snip up there like that. Okay, right, so the lace is facing me. When that's finished, I'm going to leave the lace facing this way, because if afterwards you try and turn it back, it gets all a bit dodgy and horrible. If you wanted it going that way, you would have put it in the seam here. All right, different lace and different ribbon and things reacts differently, so just trial and error a lot of the time, to be honest. Right, can you see I'm now going to put this one on top where that is, but actually I'm going to lose a lot of that lace if I do it. So I'm going to bring it over like 1/8 of an inch into the blue towards me. Does that make sense? I'm then going to put this right sides together on top at the proper 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to carefully turn that around there, and I'm going to drop my foot on there quick before I lose it. And then I'm just going to go right the way across, right off the edge. All right, and I've joined that right the way off the edge so that when that opens, I've got a piece all the way round going. Right, so now that'll open back, and look, the piece of lace is now held in place. When I put the one across there in a minute, held in place like it fell apart. See, now this is good because I can show you now what I would do to correct that. So that's not, it was on purpose, honestly. So that's one of my design developments. So I'm just going to re-stitch alongside the stitch I just did. Because these things happen. How do we put them right? Oh dear. And now we're going to flip that back open, and it's going to stay where it should. All right, so there we go. There we have a design development for everybody. What I was trying to say is that stitch it right the way off, because if they're joined out outside here, that doesn't matter. We're going to trim it all back off in a minute anyway. So that's looking quite nice now. All right, so what do we do now? We're going to have a piece right the way across here. What have I got more to the point? As I say, this is all just scrap from yesterday that I had left over and playing. Can you tell I like yellow? I love yellow. Yellow is so happy. Look, that's big enough. Can you see that? Now you've got all of this junk here, but that doesn't matter. I want a stitch line right the way across so that actually I'm joining in. Can you see? I need to join in underneath that lace to make sure that we've got no gaps or anything. Okay, so I'm just going to put that there. I'm going to put that across there, and I know that that's going to work. Right, now what I would say is if you need to pin it, all right? Because things go wrong. In fact, you know what? I'm going to get a bigger piece than that because I don't think that's quite long enough. Otherwise, do you know what? How have I not got enough pieces here? I have got so much rubbish around me. It's unbelievable. We'll go with this yellow then instead. Is that longer? Do you know, greatest things and all that, what's it? We'll have a bit of blue. There we go. Put that right across there. And so we've got loads. And I'm going to bring that back under there. And then I'm just going to stitch straight across to the edge of the one underneath. Now, this is basically crazy patchwork. Yeah? It's how you do your basic crazy patchwork. At least it's how you did it when I was a kid, I was going to say. But when I was first learning. So I'm going to snip that off the edge. All right. Now look, I've got loads of shrapnel sat there. Some of it's stitched down, some of it's not, so I'm just going to pull back a few. Yeah, I mean, that's how I always was taught original crazy patchwork. You stitch it and you flip it, and you work from the corner and you just keep going, or you work from the center, or you have a 5-sided piece and then just keep stitching pieces on it around. Yeah, so there we go. So that's basically what we're doing. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. Oh look, the yellow's stuck, so get rid of a couple of them stitches. I do love this unpicker. He's actually got a chain he sits around my neck, because I don't know if you can see that, you get a magnet goes in there and it just pulls off, and he does. God knows what I've done with my chain though, so he sits beside my machine all the time now. But there we are. Right, okay, so that's just trimmed all the rubbish off underneath, and I'm going to open that one back out, and there we go. So now that's trapped that where it should be, so that's all good. And when I put a piece across the top here, that's going to trap that as well. So that end is all going to be done nicely. And then we just keep adding pieces. It doesn't matter in what order to cover it up. All right, is that good? So that's what we're going to do. And here's what we did earlier. There's your good blue Peter what's it thingy for you. All right, now I've taken this one stage further in so much as I have trimmed it. There we go, you can see the back. Well, I've taken it several stages further really, because I don't know, can you see this? Right, now with crazy patchwork, traditionally every seam would have had some sort of embroidery on. Obviously in them days it would have been hand embroidery, and it would have been all sorts of lovely stitches. We're fortunate in so much as we've got lovely machines. Some do all sorts of patterns, some do some patterns, some do masses of patterns. You've at least got zigzag. Okay, so what I've done, I've come all the way down this seam here with an elongated blanket stitch. What else have I done? You probably can't see, but along this one here is a smaller blanket stitch, and then because it's a poshish machine, I've put a row of hearts, and on the plain there and on the plain there, just because I could, and it sort of jazzed the whole thing up. And like, do you know what that looks like? It's been done on purpose. Well, it was done on purpose, but it was never done as a plan, if that makes sense. After I've done all my bits of stitch and everything that I want to, bearing in mind I'm working on that, on the interfacing directly into it, okay, you can see how much you've done and how much you've not, and what makes it baggy or not. That brings me on to a thing. If when you're stitching and flipping, do pull it taut and pin it if you need to, because that, if you don't, this piece against the interfacing can get baggy, and that can look a bit horrible. And to be totally honest, yeah, I can show you on this one. All right, so if I don't pull that really taut and it goes baggy like that, that will show later on, and that's not so good. So make sure they're pulled taut when you're machining through. So if that means putting a pin in, put a pin in. All right, nothing wrong with pins. So yeah, on the back you can see where everything in it, and it's all happy. If it looks like it was going to bag, I'd actually unpick it. I know I hate to say unpick to anybody, but do unpick it and make it look lovely. All right, yeah, look, hello for a little minute, just for a little minute. All right, so I should have done that before really. I'm just talking to my hands, and never mind. Yeah, so we got lots of lovely stitching and things going on and all sorted. I then, all this edge that's gone off, now I made sure that all went off all the way around this other card by about at least ½ an inch. All right, I then chopped all the excess off. Okay, right, now hopefully this is going to work, and I'm going to back it now, so that's how come it's looking good. All right, what I am going to do is I'm just going to put these pins to the back. Now what I'm doing at the minute, any bit that's going to be flapping off of the card, off the interfacing, look, like that one there, can you see that? That's sticking up. So what I'm doing is I am just pinning them so that they don't flap for a minute. There's a very good reason for that, and you'll find out in a minute. I'm just doing that there, and there's another one. It's mostly corners. You have to always be careful of corners. All right, there may well be an easier way of doing this, but this is what I do. Yeah, I've said it many times before. Everything we do, there's lots of ways of doing it, and everybody does it differently, and there's no wrongs or rights. It's just how I do it. Right, I'm going to put a piece of this scrap on the back. Okay, so whoever receives this, they're going to think, oh, I'm nothing but scrap, but that's not what it means. So, why did I do it like that? Do you know I'm nuts? Take your pins out again, all right? See, this just shows that. Do as I say, not as I do. Right, so pop that onto the top of there. That's what I wanted to do, so that it's covering the back, all right? Then put your pins in, holding everything in place. Duh. Making sure that anything that's a bit loose or flappy gets to be held where you want it. And if that means several pins in one area, then do it, all right? Because the last thing you want is the back in a minute flapping off too badly where you don't want it to be flapping off. Okay, one more of them there. Now you're going to get loads of sewing machine noises in your face, ear rolls, whatever, and I apologise. Right, okay, so I'm going to do a very close zigzag, quite long. So what should we have? Should we have 3.5 on a zag? But we're going to cut that right back to 1 on the length. Okay, there we are. So let's bring you back down a little minute. You might see this, you might not. I don't know, is this going to work? There we are. So be careful of your pins and your paw machine. Now I've got a blue variegated thread in because I think that will look good, and I'm just going to... Why is it not doing that? I know why it's not doing that. See, also make sure you program in the stitch you want. So she, looking at this, I want number 6. There we go. Duh. Zigzag width. I had it about 3.5, and the length I had about 1, didn't I? So this might or might not work. Let's try again. Oh, look. Now slowly, what I'm doing is actually zigzagging over the edge of the card. Okay, so one side is going through the actual fabrics, the other is going right the way over the side of the card. I'm just going slow because there's a pin here, into the back of. Right, I'm going to take that pin out before we land up in a mess. Go to the end. Right. Okay, and I'm going to turn that like that. Hopefully you can see that now, all zigzag down the side. And we're going to start off again down this side. What we're doing is just tying in the edges, really. It's a bit noisy, isn't it? Sorry. Right, up to that corner I just held that fabric in so that it didn't gape, and I slowed down to hopefully make sure that what I was doing was what I was doing. Now I'm going to turn it that way. I'm going to lift it. I'm actually just going to adjust that a fraction so that the needle goes down where I want it first. Minding the pin, because there's a pin in that corner. Okay, turn him around. Now I'm just going to lift him, and I'm going to adjust where he's starting off. There we are. Pin, because it's a little bit baggy there because I didn't pull it tight enough. So I'm going to hold that a little minute. What I sometimes do is I get my unpicker and hang on to it there as well. So just a little reverse and a cut off. Now, there we are. So you've got, in effect, a line of stitch all the way around. Okay, back's looking all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that excess back away. What you could do, depending what you want to do. You could actually turn that to the front now, cut it really fine, turn it to the front and edge it, bind it, yeah, like you would a quilt. All right, that would look really good. But I'm going to cheat because I just want to do this quickly. So I'm going to cut that right up close. All right, get rid of that excess. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I do apologise for the noise of the machine, but there's not a lot I can do about that. There we go. You could have done that with a blanket stitch, actually. That would look nice. You could turn a piece over and blanket stitch it around. That would be good. Yeah. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to zigzag around that again now. Now that you could leave it at that with the raw edge. But I'm thinking if I go round it again, it will look a little bit nearer to satin stitch because I didn't do it close to start. But, excuse me, it will take in that raw edge that I've just made. And so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to whiz it round again. So now it's going right off the edge into nothing. Make sure I get that corner. Turn it. I do apologise, this is boring, isn't it, really? I couldn't think of any other way, because I'm not into this editing thing. I don't know how you edit. Otherwise I'd edit all that noise out for you. But I don't do technical very well. And off the end, there we go. Right, trim off my threads. Voila. That's as much as I'm going to do to this one. All right, the odd little bits that they'll work their way off and out of life, if that makes sense. Okay, so the back is nice. Okay, you can see a bit of the stitching in there, but I don't feel that really matters. If you really wanted to, you could put another line of some sort of nice stitch somewhere in there that will stop that bagging. So yeah, it might be that I'll do a little, in fact, shall I do it now? Let me just do that one that I love a lot, which is the blanket stitch on here. It really works well. I'm just going to go down in there so that it doesn't show too much, because I quite like what's going on. So I'm just going to run it down the side of that lace. But it'll act as quilting. There we go. On the spot. Cut it. There we go. So actually you can't see it that side, but you can that side. But that will just keep that and stop it from going anywhere on you. All right. Yeah, so there we are. If you wanted to put any more embellishments on, obviously you could. As I said last week, be aware how thick things are, because you get 3mm for a normal postcard or a letter price. Okay, anything more than 3mm and you're into large letters, which is fair enough, it's not the end of the world, but you just need to be aware of that, because as I said last week, how horrible if you get a lovely card like that arrive on your doorstep and you got to pay for it. Use a fabric marker pen on the back here, like a permanent pen, you know, like you do the kids' school labels and things like that. Yeah, do that, use that. All right, when you stick your stamp on, extra bit of glue. I've actually got, I've got the Gutermann fabric glue. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. And I put a blob of that underneath and then put my stamp on top, so that I know that that's not going to come off. The last thing you want is that coming off in the post. All right, so yeah, let's just do this to you. There we go. Hello everybody. That's nicer, isn't it? Crazy patchwork postcard. You could do hundreds of these, all sorts of different, anything that you've got. You know, there's no rights or wrongs. Just remember, stitch and flip. It might be that as you're coming out, you need to do several little bits. I don't know if you can see under there, there's a blue, and then I had to put a tiny bit of the yellowy blue on the corner there because that bit wasn't covered. You just keep doing it until you're covered. Job done. And put in as much ribbon and lace and buttons and beads and anything else that you fancy. You could do all of that by hand quite easily if you're a hand worker. I think that would be nice. Last week's postcard that I made, you know, the sunflower one, I got posted to Poland, and as far as I know, it's there all okay and lovely, as it was, written on the back with the permanent fabric pen, and with the glue on the stamp. All right, so yeah, that's your first postcard challenge. All right, you can go and make hundreds of them if you fancied. It's so simple, and it literally was a handful of yesterday's offcuts from what I was doing. Yeah, there we go. Happy postcarding. I will say, I'm starting to get petrified now. Next Sunday, or this Sunday, it's not even next Sunday, I'm on TV and it's live and everything. So where I messed up just now, I couldn't go and redo it. I'd have to sit here and blag my way through it. Oh, it's all very scary, you know. All very scary. But I've got, this is on Craftstoretv, that used to be called Hachandra. It's Craftstoretv at 1 PM on Sunday. All right. I've got 8 new designs that are cushions, or wall hangings, or panels, whatever you want to make them into. They could be used in sets of 4. I'm not going to say anything more than that. They're all new. There's kits for some of them, there's patterns for all of them. There's a new quilt design that I've done on there, and there's an old quilt design been republished into block of the month, or as a whole, whatever you want. Loads of templates, all sorts. There's loads coming up. All right, so basically I'd love to see you there next Sunday, 1 PM. Apparently you can get online and see it after anyway, because that's generally how I watch my other friends that are on there. I go online and catch up later on. Andy at Crafty UK and Anthea at Tell Me Quilting Antics and people like that. Debbie. There's all sorts, and Julie, and there's loads. So it will be like a patchwork show, I think, where I used to do the shows all around the country. Used to see all your friends. Well, hopefully I'm going to see some of my friends on Sunday, but TV studio. It's very scary. Live. Never mind, it'll be what it'll be. But there's loads of new stuff coming, so please do have a little look, and shout if there's anything you fancy me doing in the next program. Even, who knows, it might happen. So what I'm gonna say is postcards will probably be a day late, because I'm hopeful that Sunday is the show. Monday I'll be posting out to people, possibly Tuesday posting out. So I reckon this will probably be a Tuesday thing, unless I get really bored and do you one on Friday, because you never know your luck. All right, so yeah, please be around. Craftstoretv, 1 PM Sunday, May the 9th. Cool. What else is going on? 3 things, because we still need the 3 things. We need a bit of tidying. You don't need to see what's just this side, because I was just doing this. I didn't have to tidy today, so it's an absolute heap with Tom fast asleep in his bed. And then there's a bit of exercise, round. It's miserable out there, so I suggest indoor exercise today. And how's all your friends? Stay in touch, shout them, message them, send them a postcard. How lovely. Anyway, there we go. So that's me for today, and I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it makes sense. I do apologise for the setup, but do you know what, it might have worked. Any suggestions are always welcome. Is there anything else you want to see on postcards? Not quite sure what we'll do next week. I'll have a little play come the time. All right, so what I'm going to say is have a lovely week. and be lovely.